We're with track coach Mike Heimerman, ending his first year as the Northwestern track coach, heading to the national championships is traditional in his program, and with an athlete who has capability to be on the podium and even be the guy with the gold medal in both his events, and Justin Walker. Mike, let's first look at the team last week in the regional championships, the East Regions in Jacksonville, Florida. Give us a general breakdown of the performances and how you feel about what your athletes did at the East Region.
Well, we really had a pretty good meet. Some of the finishes might not dictate that, but really we had a great meet. We'll start off, we'll go on the women's side. Consuela Lindsay had two of her fastest races of her career. She made the top 24, and with hitting a hurdle, if she wouldn't hit hurdle number 10, I think she'd have broke her school record, maybe set up a little bit better for the next day, but she didn't run quite as smart as she needed to in the finals, or the semifinals, and it didn't advance. But she still ran in the 58 range twice, and before that, her in her career, she was only run in the 58 two times in her previous 3 years. So it was two very good races for her. So she ended on a pretty high note. Then Kenya McDaniel didn't have quite the date that she thought. But, she was out there really trying to put out her big mark like she did at our home meet, over 20 feet. And she ended up jumping 19.7 I think that's the correct measurement. And for her to do that in that atmosphere, that's the biggest meet of her life up to that point. So that was another credit to her. Same thing with Rochelle Bessard in the hammer and in the discus. She went in ranked, I think, 38th and 41st. And I think she was 20th and 22nd out of both of them. She had a foot foul in one and a sector foul in the other that would have maybe made finals in both of them, but we'll never know. But for her to go in and respond and to right at her PR in both events at the biggest meet of her life, that was a big jump for her, because last year she qualified in the discus and really didn't have a very good meet at all. Actually, I think she ended up last year and just really did not compete this year. She learned a little bit from last year, and she got out there and competed a little bit. One year is intimidating. Then we had Keona Jackson in the shot put, and that was her first regional meet. She had some butterflies, especially we changed her technique up a little bit, and she had some big throws, and with her trying to stay in the ring right now is a little bit of a challenge. She thought she did on one of them, and actually I said no, she didn't. When we watch film, she actually hops out of the ring, hops back in the ring, and doesn't really even notice it. But she tried to play it off very, very well, and that's what we always tell them to do: make them call it instead of giving up and making it easy for them to call. But she had some really good throws, so hopefully that experience will help her in her next season. Portia Thomas had a good meet, and unfortunately for her, she was on the last day, so she had to wait that whole time, just kind of watching her and Keona both, just watching all the competitions and just sitting around. We can only have so many practices to kind of set up some things. And, she jumped right under 40 feet, which she only broke 40 feet 3 times. So, it was good for her as a sophomore to go in there. Her, Rochelle's a sophomore. They went in there and battled, so I couldn't ask for too much more. We kind of had those girls set up for conference, and, they did what they needed to do for us at the conference meet. So, they had a great season. And that on the women's side, with most of those girls, 3 of those 5 girls returning, maybe 4 girls returning. Kenya McDaniel's got another outdoor season, indoor and outdoors. She hasn't made up her mind yet. She wants to come back and go to grad school and compete some more. So we have a very good team that could be returning next year. So hopefully all 3 of those, maybe 4 girls, will be at the regional meet again next year. On the men's side, we had Aaron Williams in the long and the triple. He was really, really close, had some foot fouls because he was just pressing a little bit too hard in the triple. Long jump, kind of the same way. He's putting his foot out there instead of sprinting off the board and kind of taking off. So it was just, he was wanting it a little bit too much, which is a good thing and bad thing. I like the aggressiveness, but then when you get too aggressive sometimes, it really kind of hinders you in the performance. But, I think it's going to go in. We're going to redshirt him outdoor next year. So his experience from that meet will help out in 2 years from now. But, he had a really good meet, got some more experience, and he still jumped almost 51 feet. And that was kind of a bad day for him. He had 1 foot foul that it couldn't have been by much. It was a monster. But if we could measure those, then a lot of other athletes have those same problems too, that have some monster foot fouls. So we'd probably still be in the same boat. 4x1, they had a good race. It wasn't quite the ending that we kind of wanted or expected, but we had two of those kids on there are freshmen, true freshmen, our leadoff leg and our anchor leg, Shakir Ryan and Ty Schilling, that, no matter what they'll tell you, I know that those two were intimidated and kind of scared. We had Florida State to the inside, we had Florida in another lane, and we had some quick teams. Now, we're a quick team now, but, you still get a little intimidated no matter what, and I think they might have ran a little tight. We botched one handoff for sure between Shakir and Keenan Jackson, who's our number two guy, number two leg. And that kind of hurt us. And then Keenan kind of held his own after that and handed off to Justin. That did well. And then Ty ran a phenomenal anchor leg, but it just, we ran our second fastest time of the year, 40.15. But when you're on that level, 40.15 has got us 20th out of 24 teams. That's just how fast that is. So, a lot of experience. Now we lose, Justin, of course, but, we bring 3 of those 4 back, and hopefully we can add a little bit, and those guys will be back there next year, I hope. And then we get down to Justin Walker. He had a phenomenal meet, not quite to what his standards, but at this meet, it doesn't really matter what you run. It's top 12 qualify onto the national championships, or what we call the final round now. So it doesn't matter. He could have been 12th. He was 11th in the 100, 4th in the tied for really 3rd in the 200. They gave it to the other guy. It really doesn't matter as long as you're in the top 12. If he's 12th, if he could have got 12th in both of them, I wouldn't have cared, because that means he's still going to Eugene. 13th, unfortunately, is not the seat you want to be in. So he did what he needed to do. We had some problems just with his body a little bit from being broke down over the last couple of weeks. Conference really probably put a toll on him. Him being a little quiet about his injury, working through it might have hurt him a little bit more than it helped him. But it just showed how bad he wanted it and wanted to go to Eugene. He's never been in the 200, and he wanted to make it in both. He wanted to make it in 3 events: the 4x1, the 1, and the 2. But it didn't quite work out. But he's set up to be to do something that very few sprinters here have ever done. In fact, I don't know if any have been an All-American in the 1 and the 2 at the national meet. We've had some in both, or one or the other, but I don't know if we've had anybody that's been an All-American in both of them.
All right, talk about what it took for Justin to change his start because of the sore heel in the 100.
Well, we really didn't notice it until after he did it. Our sprint coach, Coach Leith, actually made the comment to me after he ran the race, and he said something must be really bothering him because he actually changed his feet up. And in the 100, that's not very easy to do. Well, it's not easy to do in either one of them, but in the 100, that's 100 meters that you have to race. And when you don't have a very good start, it could be over before it really even started. For him to even come out of the blocks opposite like that, he had no push and what they call a drive phase, his first 50 meters that he was talking about. Well, his first 30s is really what we call a drive phase, and he didn't have a whole lot. He just started turning over, which Justin's got a high gear that very few people have. That's why sometimes he likes that 200 a little bit better than the 100, because he's got a high gear that not too many people have. But he just started hitting that high gear and just started kind of running. And thank God he has that gear that not too many people have, because that still put him on into Eugene. So, for him to make that change, and he was a little bit more comfortable with it in the 2, and he got a good push. In the second round in the 200, he actually had one of the better starts he's ever had. And when he came out of the turn out of the 200 at 100 meters, he was ahead. And he was moving pretty good, and actually about 170 meters, he actually looked to his side, because he said he kept hearing the announcer say that Walker, because they would just say last name, whoever's in the lead and then maybe second. And he was like, well, heck, I had to look around, because he kept saying Walker. He was like, where's everybody else at? Because he didn't know he ran that well. But he still ran pretty well, and we're super excited for him to go. Today will probably be his first actual practice since we've been back. We gave him a couple days off, doing some rehab. And today will probably be his first practice to do a little work and see how everything feels. All
right, expectations for and goals for Eugene.
Well, just like Justin says, he wants to go and run fast. If he goes and runs the times that he wants to run, the places will work itself out. There are some phenomenal guys running. When you're the top 24 in that event, it's that's the cream of the crop. Those guys are running fast, and this year they're running faster and a little bit than normal. But he's one of those guys that when we talked about being intimidated or running with other guys, how an honor. Well, some of those guys are also talking about Justin, because he is the fastest guy in the NCAAs right now with the wind legal running. 200, he is number 7. So he's fast. Expectations, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins a national title in one or the other, or even both. But I want him to be, on the podium to get his, the trophy that they get for the top 8. That would be my goal for him, to be top 8. Right now, actually, I just looked at the track and field, the forum, the chat, and what they have their forum chart right now. They don't have him listed in top 8 in neither one of them. So I'm gonna. He hadn't heard that yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and give him that screenshot I took, so he can put that up there, so he can prove him wrong. Because even though he's ran fast times, it had been the most consistent, the fastest consistent sprinter this year, that he still hasn't got the respect he deserves.
Okay, let's bounce back to where you have him now, where he has reached this level, and it wasn't that long ago, just over 2.5 years, that he was a guy coming off reconstructive knee surgery. Put that into context of somebody whose career was threatened, and now he's one of the best in collegiate track and field, unquestionably.
Well, the surgery, you never know how you bounce back from it. I mean, they can tell you that you should bounce back and not a problem, and doing that is two different things. And I would say it's because all of his rehab that he did, but I would be kind of maybe fibbing a little bit. He did a pretty good job with his rehab. He might not have did everything as well as he could have. You can ask our rehabilitation guy, and he already knows. If he's watching this, I won't say his name, but he'll agree. But no, he did a pretty good job, but he's just that naturally talented. Just the good surgery that he got to fix everything, and over the time that it took just to heal, I mean, he's just that talented. And after kind of, even last year, he had some deficiencies with his quad and hamstring relationship that we addressed this summer with one of our strength coaches. Kind of helped write a program with one of our trainers, and they kind of addressed that this summer. Now, that was one thing that Justin did a great job this summer, because he got his deficiency a lot closer, that he closed that gap between the quad and hamstring. And we still have some things now that he was told the other day that he's been kind of told all year he's got some deficiencies. It was why his hamstrings fire so much more than his glutes, because he's got some deficiencies with his glutes. But he's working on some things, and that's where he's going to move on from here and hopefully be a professional sprinter. And those are things he'll have to start listening to some of his coaches and some of his trainers, or his important people that'll be in his circle. But he's super talented, and it's just the fortitude, intestinal fortitude, I guess he's had, or his determination that he wanted to be one of the fastest guys in the country, is what's been probably the biggest determining factor for him being where he is right now.
So you're saying there's room for improvement for Justin Walker.
There's always room
in the future.
There's always room for improvement. I mean, if you say that there's not, then that's the day that you need to retire. I mean, every professional athlete will tell you that. The day that you don't think you can get any better is the day that you need to say, I'm done. So
okay.
Until then, he's always got room for improvement.
Excellent. Now, you have, this is your first year as the head overall coach, but you've been a throws coach, you've been a women's head coach, you've coached many All-Americans, you've coached a national champion in the women's discus. So going into this meet, you know what it takes to succeed. If there's just a few words of advice, what would they be?
Well, just like I told Justin at the regional meet, I said, you go out there and do what you do. Just like he commented earlier, he doesn't worry about what anybody else does. He's just going to take care of himself. He goes out there, he's got a little protocol he goes through, what he needs to do in the blocks, coming out of the blocks and in the race. As long as he does what he's supposed to do, everything else will take care of itself. I mean, I told him that at conference. He had a great conference meet, undoubtedly. Told him that at regionals, he was a little banged up, didn't want to tell nobody, which a lot of people don't, but he did what he needed to do to advance. So at nationals, I'll tell him the same thing, and undoubtedly I'm confident he'll have the same outcome. He'll do what he needs to do, and he'll advance to the second round or to the finals, and he'll be an All-American in both events.
Excellent.
Knock on some wood.
Good deal. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.